I've been playing wrestling video games since the wrestling video games looked like that. That's right. Pixels, NES era pixels, where every character, except for Bam Bam Bigelow for some reason, who could do a cartwheel, did the exact same thing. And so, in my 30 plus years of playing wrestling video games, I have played a number of them. But I'm here to tell you that the best wrestling video game of all time is not what you would expect. I'm Lee from Champions Chat, and this is the best wrestling video game ever. Whenever people talk about the best wrestling video game of all time, there's a few likely suspects that get thrown out. WWF No Mercy being one of them. Now, I remember playing No Mercy. Actually, I really remember playing WCW versus NWO Revenge on my Nintendo 64 with all of my friends. And let me tell you, the create a character, the depth of the roster, the attitude era goodness that was this game certainly put it in the upper echelon of wrestling video games across all of history. But I don't think that's the best game. So, what about SmackDown? Here Comes the Pain. That is often thrown out as one of the, if not the best wrestling games. The PS2 era classic that introduced so much more depth to your creator wrestler, backstage environments. I mean, how many people remember riding the motorcycle and like grabbing the person and driving them around? Destructible environments, climbing up the SmackDown fist. Yeah, you remember that. And jumping off of it. The roster that was unparalleled for the time. This was a landmark classic. Or, of course, you have your current era, which is the WWE 2K games. Talk about graphics, talk about pedigree, talk about the ability to do some downloadable characters across the community and have your content creations shareable with custom entrances and rings and all of the things. Plus, I mean, Dirty Dom has never looked dirtier than on that game right there, right? Is this the best it's ever been? Well, I want to tell you that I think the best wrestling game that is available on the market, and possibly the best wrestling game that has ever been, is not what you expect. It's not on the Nintendo. It's not on the Nintendo 64. It's not a PlayStation Classic, and it's not a current era favorite. The best wrestling game of all time, definitively, is WWE Champions for mobile. That's right. I said it, and I'm going to show you why. So this is WWE Champions mobile app. This is iOS, Android, available on a online portal, and it is insanely good. It has its problems, don't get me wrong, but this is a game that I have now been playing for almost 6 years of my life, every single day. That's right. Like, I stopped playing my PlayStation to play this game on a regular basis. So what makes this the best game? What argument could I possibly have to prove that this would be better than 2K24 or WCW NWO Revenge? Well, I'm going to look at a few things. Because whenever you talk about, these type of wrestling games, there's a few quality areas that you look at to say, is this possibly the actual best thing that's out there? And it always comes down to similar ones. We're going to start with roster. Does this game have a selection of WWE superstars from the past and the present that are worth investing in, that are worth using? Now, you've seen a few fly across on the little bar on the front there, but let me show you my roster in game, right? I have what is considered to be a higher roster right now, not the top end, but it's up there at 10.4 million talent. How do we get that number? Well, of the characters in the game, which there are now over 6 hundred of, by the way, you can invest and increase them up. So we'll talk about that in a moment, because that comes to customizability, replayability, depth of gameplay. But first, let's just look at the roster as it is. So in your roster, you have historic classics, your Legends era, like your Hulk Hogan, your Andre the Giant, your Bruno Sammartino, which I don't think is in other games, if I remember. Pat Patterson, the first ever Intercontinental Champion. This month right now, the big focus, because there's new characters that drop every single month, is Mae Young, Maxine Dupree, Ilya Dragunov. Mae Young, I don't think, has been in any other wrestling game to date, except, no, that's not true. She is in No Mercy. Of course, she's in No Mercy, actually. Let me pull that one back real quick. But as a playable model from her original era, I don't know, man. I don't know. And in addition to your legends, you also have your modern era favorites. You've got your CM Punks, you've got your Baileys, you've got the rest of Damage Control, although at the time of this recording, she's out of there. You've got your Charlotte Flairs. You've got, as I mentioned, this month, Ilya Dragunov making his debut. You've got people from across the modern era spectrum, even like your Julius Creed and Brutus Creed, that if they're in 2K, that's where they really would have started. You also have not only characters like Rhea Ripley, you've got special variants. Like, this is a 1980s version of Rhea Ripley that is heavy metal Rhea. It looks so good, and she's such a good character in the game, such a good fighter, that is, as well. You've got your Becky Lynch's, and we're going to talk about variants, but this is zombie Becky Lynch right here. Becky Two Bites, right? Who's also one of the top tier characters in the females for the game. You've got your Seth Rollins. I mean, you've got all of the characters you can look for. In fact, Champions is so loaded that there are a number of styles of character that you're not going to find anywhere else. This last month, the big feature was Ozzy Osbourne. WWE Hall of Famer Ozzy Osbourne is in this game, and he is incredibly good, right? In fact, they even have two variants of him with your gear that you can select. So you've got Prince of Darkness and you've got the Bowler of Darkness variants of Ozzy Osbourne. What other wrestling game has Ozzy? But Ozzy's by far not alone in terms of unique offerings that are in the game. See, in addition to Ozzy Osbourne, you have the Zombies variants. Every single October and every spring break, they introduce new zombies or new gear for the zombies in game. This is Zombie Sami Zayn, who is part of the Western-themed Zombie Month, which, yeah, there was an entire zombie event that was just cowboy-themed. What in the world is that? And then you got his special gear the next spring break. I already showed you Zombie Becky. There's also Zombie Liv Morgan with her cowboy theme. Zombie Cody Rhodes. Zombie Shinsuke Nakamura. Zombie Finn Balor. So many more that just add this great depth to the roster of fun. Just characters that you just are like, wow, this is just kind of goofy and hilarious and fun. Well, add to that, you have Hall of Fame characters like Hall of Fame Jim Neidhart here with different gear that you can get. You can see I'm still pursuing one of his gears, but you've got your Hall of Fame statue variants and then silver and gold versions of each one of those. And across the roster, you've got a lot of legends that are in that category. You've got your Hall of Fame Diamond Dallas Page. You've got your Hall of Fame Hulk Hogan. Your Hall of Fame Ultimate Warrior. Your Hall of Fame Triple H with his DX gear on it. You've got Hall of Fame Shawn Michaels with his DX gear. You've got Hall of Fame Kurt Angle, You've got Hall of Fame Undertaker. You've got Hall of Fame Lita. You've got so many. And again, they're just You're fighting with statues, but it's so fun. You've also got other crossover characters, like there was a Rocky event, so you had Apollo Creed and Clubber Lang and Sylvester himself. So what other wrestling game are you going to come to and say, yeah, I am using Carl Weathers' Apollo Creed to fight as my Showboat champion? It's just an unparalleled level of depth. You've got variants of each character that are modern that show, their progression through their careers. So, for example, you've got Cody Rhodes after he won, and then you've also got other versions of Cody, such as when he's the American Nightmare, when he very first came back. You also have classics, which I can't get because they haven't put him back in the game just yet. But like Stardust, you've got all the way back to Stardust, so you can play with your favorite wrestler, Cody Rhodes, from his worst to his best, from undesirable to undeniable. And there are over 600 characters, so I am just barely scratching the surface on what you can do. What other wrestling game has 3 different versions of Snoop Dogg, right? WWE Hall of Famer and the big gold belt wearing champion Snoop Dogg is available with 3 different versions. This one right here, I don't even have. I'm still trying to recruit him, if you see the little shard counter here at the bottom. But this is Long Beach era Snoop, and it just keeps going. The roster depth in this, crossovers like the Ghostbusters event, where we've got Ghostbuster, Roman Reigns, John Cena, Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin. You have so much fun in this game, right? And that's not even mentioning certain characters like we talked about the zombies, but they're also mutant characters. So Seth Rollins, right? You can go to the Mutant Messiah Seth, one of my favorite looks in this game. Look at that model. That is just gorgeous artwork, style, all of that. And the mutants have their own special entrance. They've got special variations on the finishing moves so that it adds a little extra spicy pepper to the mix. And so much more. So the first category of a good wrestling game is roster depth. And look at these characters, right? Rick Rude, Triple H, Captain Lou Albano. How many games have him? Hall of Fame China. Currents like the Brawling Brutes and Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross. You've got Super Stacy. You've got Roman Reigns wearing his 80s rock metal outfit. You've got the Last Outlaw Undertaker, John Cena, Sami Zayn, Goldberg, Logan Paul. This was, if I remember correctly, the first game to have Logan Paul in it. If not, I know it was the 100% the first game to have Muhammad Ali. This was before 2K got to him at all. This is what opened the door for Ali to be in WWE games. And here he is. What other game can you have Muhammad Ali and Ozzy Osbourne against Snoop Dogg and Rocky? I mean, come on, right? Add in your Johnny Knoxvilles and your other crossovers, and you have a roster that is fun to play with. Your favorite character from whatever era of wrestling you watched is almost guaranteed to be in this game. Your Bret Harts, your Ultimate Warriors, your Final Boss Rock, and yes, 2K, he's actually wearing his Final Boss gear before anything else had it, right? So you've got a roster depth that is just astounding. But what good is a roster that is deep and customizable if there isn't a good core mechanic to the game? Well, this has a very good core mechanic to the game. So let's talk about Drew McIntyre right here. Drew McIntyre is a striker. So there's a lot of depth to the game to think about. It is not just a wrestling Candy Crush, although I'll show you in a moment, it does have some elements to that. But just on this screen, you can see multiple layers of depth to the game that make it almost RPG-like in some of its customization. So Drew McIntyre is a striker, but he's also an aggressive striker. And as you go in here, you see that the different styles and classes have a significance as to what your character can do, what style they are, how they play, who they're good against, and who they're weak against. So there are 6 different classes in the game. Strikers are better than tricksters, or I should say they have an advantage over tricksters, which is logical, right? Because your striker is going to, if somebody's trying to be a trickster, you're just going to punch them in the mouth, right? But they are weak against showboats. Because your showboat, your LA Knights, yeah, he's in the game, can talk themselves out of a fight, right? So it's a logical progression so that you are strong against tricksters, weak against showboats. And each class has their own. So your tricksters, here's Akam from the Final Testament, right, is strong against a technician, but weak against a striker. So he gets punched in the mouth by a striker, but he's good against a tech. And that makes sense again, right? Your technicians, your Bret Hart, can outmaneuver a powerhouse. They're going to put him in the lock, but the trickster has tools and tricks to get around them. So there's 6 different classes. They work in this beautiful circle arrangement here where, again, the showboat Sheamus here is strong against strikers, but weak against acrobats because acrobats can jump around and outmaneuver your showboats. There are so many variations within that it's just a beautiful depth of gameplay that you want to see things move. So let's look at Elias here. Strong against powerhouse, weak against trickster, right? So it's a circular style that works for who you have to be thinking about what they're strong against and what they're weak against. But that's not all the depth of this game, right? This game has some serious depth behind it of what they're thinking through. So let's take a look at Bret Hart here, right? Bret Hart is a showboat, and he's a focused showboat, which we're not going to talk about that, but it does give another layer of how this depth works for them. He has a variety of moves. Each wrestler has 3 different colors that they work from at this point in the meta. So the colors matter because you charge your moves with MP, think mana, so to speak, from other games. So you can use tricolor setups, you can use single color setups, and you can use these kind of setups like this where you make a certain type of gem that then makes that type of gem with another move into a different color or a different damage type. It's just so fun. Plus, you've got things like titles, right? You can equip straps to these characters, and the straps have special features to them that are called skill plates. And your skill plates do different things. Like, for example, the Booyaka plate. Whenever you break 3 or more yellow gems, you get 3 purple MP. So for characters who are running yellow and purple moves, you have some amazing things to them. And you've got some special characters, or even not so special in terms of, like, they're not rare in the WWE world. William Regal is, a legend, but not like your top champion, so to speak. Never Universal, never WWE champion. But this William Regal in this game is perhaps the best character if you have his tricks, right? You've got your titles, you've got special medals to boost him up. He's also got gears that do some incredible things, like all of your moves start loaded. And so you're not just playing to get the character, you also have the aspect of seeking after the right gears, the right medals, and so on and so forth. So the depth of customization in this game is insane. The ability to build up the characters you want to build. Like, William Regal is the top character on my roster, but if you flip down to the bottom of my roster, I've got Dolph Ziggler, Acrobat, who, if you follow our content, I vowed never never to take beyond level 1. He was my 300th character on my roster, so in honor of that, I'm keeping him at the very bottom forever. And then through playing the game and through, yes, spending through microtransactions, we'll talk about that. Very recently, I was able to get some heavy hitters like Seth freaking Rollins right here, or Powerhouse Sami Zayn from when he got kicked out of the Bloodline. So I'm going to be starting to build these characters up and work them through my roster. I've also got some that maybe aren't worth working on down here. Like your trickster Ric Flair here. He's not good in the meta of the game anymore, but he's in there and he does some things, right? So every character is valuable. One more area of customization and depth to the gameplay is your trainer and coaching abilities. So every character in the game also comes with either a trainer or a coaching ability. Seth freaking Rollins' ability, when you max him out at 26k talent, is that any colored gem does 40% more damage, and moves that create a special type of gem called Juggernaut gems create one more. That is a highly desirable and strong entourage ability in this game. And so you're going to use this Seth Rollins as an entourage member for your other characters. So for example, going back to Zombie Sami Zayn here, on my entourage, I have characters that I have used for him that do special things. So, for example, I can go in and set this previous filter right here and go back to characters that I've used on him in the past and get him loaded up. So, Zombie Sammy, I run with a double green and red setup on his move combination. And so, this Roxanne Perez right here does green moves start with 4 more MP and red moves start with 4 more MP. Prince Pretty, green moves and red moves start, so I start loaded turn 1. Zombie Becky makes my green gems do 30% more damage, and the most entertaining man in all of sports entertainment, Rock, has multiply gems do more damage and increase their strength by 1. Plus, for special modes, when there's a faction feud, I'm going to get 50% more score on my faction event because I have Icons of WrestleMania Triple H. Don't get overwhelmed. There's lots of tutorials to hop in, but just look at the depth of customization that's on your roster. So, compared to your other games, you've got 600 plus characters and counting. How many other wrestling games have that? You have characters from all eras across the board, from your Legends era to your Modern era to your Ruthless Aggression area and everything in between there. You have variants like your Zombies, your Hall of Fame. You've even got Vader with his elephant-like mastodon armor on him from New Japan era and WCW. You've got so many guest characters that no other game is going to have, like your Muhammad Ali, your Ozzy Osbournes. Plus, you've got all different versions or eras of certain characters, from when Bayley was in Damage Control back to when she was Hugga Bayley. There are just so many to play with. And the customization aspect, while there is no create a wrestler, let me lay that out for you. There is no create a wrestler, but you are in control of what moves you level up with which characters and what levels. So, huge roster, great, almost infinite customization, and we're just scratching the surface. Because what about gameplay, right? What about the game itself? If the game itself isn't fun, why would you even want to do it? Well, there's lots of different modes that you can play through. There's the road that has various tours that go across the eras of special events, or even special, like the Women's Evolution Tour in there. And each one has a different level of rarity of characters. So your newest, your top end tours here will have your top end fighters. So like your Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner right here at 6-star gold with 37k talent is going going to be a much harder ask to beat on the road than your level 1 characters that are in the NXT tour. So you've got so many tours you can start out by playing, each one with its own set of rewards and challenge. Then you've got your daily events that you do, like your Showdown. You've got your Dead Man's Daily and your Superstars Tour that allow you to play little bits and spurts every day. You also have your weekly events. Right now, we are about to transition to the weekend event, but the weekly event right now, you've got your Indie Heart Tour. You've got Extreme Rules that use special gem types to accomplish certain things. You've got victory tours if you get certain characters. You've got a monthly tour for the free character that comes out each month, which this month's was Batista from his earliest days when he was Whiteista, not Bluetista. You've got month-long tours that happen, plus you've got things like your faction feud. So this is going to be going live tonight. It happens twice a month on the weekends, but there's a rotation of weekend events that are based around your factions, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And you have to use certain characters that either it asks you to have, like that top spot is the new 600th character Naomi that I just don't have in the game, versus these other ones that I get to fill in whatever character I want, but there's special requirements for using certain characters, and there's certain bonuses for filling in your lineup. So you have got your feuds. You've got what they call boss battles that require you to work together with your team and with special abilities to fight a monster strong level character, and you've got showdowns where you go up against other factions that are competing against you for leaderboard rankings. So not only do you have your individual, you also have your faction. So I'm in a faction called Toxic Mafia. We are one of the top 10 factions in the game. Sometimes we drop into the 20 range, but usually around the top 10. And there are 100 other people in my faction. Some that I've played with for a while, like your Soupster here, Dylan the Villain, who joined not too long ago into this, all the way down to some characters that I have been playing in factions with. I've only been in, 3 technically, but 2 that I've really played with, like Shellers right here and Rusty Graves, that I have been in factions with for over 6 years, around 6 years. And your faction matters. The team that you're in determines the rewards that you're going to get in these contest milestones. So for example, this month-long contest right here gives me something to play for the rest of this month, but in it, the competitions tab here, there's also faction events. Like our faction right now is ranked number 5 in the world, in the community, for the Summer of Champions faction competition that lasts for 1 week. So there's individual rewards, but there's also faction goals to play towards. And there's faction events like Faction Feud that allow you to fight against other people who are in other factions from across the community. As of this recording, there's somewhere between 30 and 40,000 people every single day that play Champions. So there's always a faction that you can go up against. That's just a part of it, right? Now, there is the part that people kind of get upset about depending on how you're doing. This is a free-to-play game, which means there are microtransactions. There are characters that you get for free every month, but there are also characters that you have to, as we say, spin the loot to get. So this would be an example of a high dollar special loot that's going on right now, where the rarest of rare characters like Rex Regum Triple H, Impressive Indy, Nation of Domination Rock, The Great Muda, Long Beach Snoop, Muscle Man Bray Wyatt, and so many more are available. And as you see, you have kind of different pools. Your featured pool is going to be the ones that are the most rare, down to your common and very rares, which are going to be more, as it sounds, common characters that aren't quite as special, but you're taking a risk that you're going to get one of the higher end characters here. So like your Edge, Iconoclast, Bret Hart, Grayson Waller, these ones are fairly available to most any, although there are some rare ones like that Hall of Fame Undertaker in there, stunning Steve Austin from when he was in the Hollywood Blondes, and so forth. So you have your high dollar pay, you've got your regular Champions loot, which is like about $2 per pull. There's still going to be some rare characters in here like Jade Cargill and Entitled Chelsea Green, but for the most part you start to see that there's more resources and much less rare characters as you go. Oh, shout out, what other game has LWO Eddie Guerrero? That variant is awesome. And then you have your quote-unquote free loot, which is your Champion's briefcase right here. And every single mode that you play works to give you what they call these keys, and 1,000 keys gets you a pull. So, for example, if I were to do a single pull right now, I can show you just what it looks like. I'm playing, there we go, on the portal. So I'm going to get a 3-star gold blue chipper Rocky Maivia. So Rock's debut, I already had him, so it converts to shards of him, which are used for leveling up moves. And then if I do a 10 pull or a 55 pull, I'm guaranteed much more rare characters with much better odds. So there's free characters, there's paid, and then there's your premium characters from there. So there's lots of customization, there's lots of characters, lots of fun. But again, if the game isn't fun to play, what are we doing with ourselves? This is a match 3, a gem matching game. So I'm going to go into the tour here and show you my Liv Morgan, because, I mean, come on, she's the world champion right now, against Piper Niven in game. So this tour requires this specific Liv, which, by the way, if you were playing it this week, she was given out for free, and she is an S tier character. You can see the little badge underneath of her, which means she is more rare, except for the fact that they gave her away. So we're going to set our entourage, and I'm going to use that handy-dandy previous filter that allows me to go in and very quickly run with a setup that I'm familiar with and with who I care about. I've selected this move set out of her possible 7. I've gotten Oblivion. It takes 7 red gems to charge it, deal damage and increase my red gem damage by 200%, and then I make color turn gems into red. I've got the running drop kick, which is my 6 MP green, deal damage, choose 6 gems to make red, and I've got the ripcord knee strike, deal damage, and choose a 5x5 area to turn into color turn gems. So these all work together. This is a 6-star gold Liv Morgan. I've got some plates on her like this one, the Devon specs, which give us, whenever I make 6 or more color turn gems, increase all of our damage by 50%. I've got an anti-stun strap on her so that if she gets hit by a character like Piper, who can put a stun to make you skip your turn, she doesn't get stunned because I've got that strap. And I've got a moment, the Summer of Champions 2023, which increases her abilities. So the depth, I promise it's not as overwhelming as it seems at first. Once you get into it, like, I played Destiny for years, and Destiny was way more complex than this. You just learn as you go, right? So I'm going to go up against Piper Niven on the road here. Each character has their own entrance, so you'll kind of see as they come in, you know, their special little thing. It's, you know, set by the character. It's not customizable, but, you know, it's just kind of a flourish. And then you have your gem board. This is a gem smashing game, so the way that you play it is by matching gems to load your moves and then doing your moves in order to beat the character. So because I used a trainer to get my moves started, I actually don't need to load them with the gem board yet. I'm going to play on the gem board. So this character, Liv Morgan, uses a special type of gem called Color Turn. They are Actually not that popular in the game community because they're a little bit goofy the way they work, but for her, they vote very well. Then I've got this green move that allows me to make 6 gems red, and I have this right here where I want to match to get a 7 MP back so I can run this move again. So now I'm going to place some gems on the gem board, try not to cascade or drop a match that I don't want, which I did find there. And now I've loaded her move again, so I can then put this down on the gem board. And now most of the gem board are color turn. I've got this right here, which increases my red gem damage by 200% and makes 36 of those gems red, which is going to just oblivion her right away. Bam, boom, and then boom again. And we see 34 million damage against a character with 60 million health. She cannot kick out, right? So that's kind of your gameplay. It's a lot of fun. And as you play the depth of it, you have things like I mentioned, the stun. You know, if I would let her stun me, then I would have had to have used my anti-stun strap. Or the fact that this Piper Niven has a green move that is a submission move. If she hits that move, that takes away my move charge. Plus, she has moves that will do some big damage, as our friend Sir Zoro says. So the gameplay itself is a lot of fun. And you can do some builds and some characters that do massive, massive amounts of damage. So for example, if I were to go onto the road right here and go up against this high-level opponent on the Backlash Tour, which ironically is going to be Zombie Sami Zayn right here, then I can pick characters that do just massive amounts of damage. So right now in the 6-star gold meta, we say any character who can do around 60 million damage is like the top end of all characters. Oops, that's not who I want. I want that one right there. And I want that one right there. And then I want this right here. So you can see I'm breaking my entourage off of other characters that I have to put William Regal in the fight. Oh, you know what? Actually, I forgot, as I went here, I actually have William Regal's gear now. So I do want to go ahead and use these guys right here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now I've got my William Regal set and loaded. I've got his strap, which does 100% extra damage, plus 80% more damage there, and another 28% there. So about 200% additional damage. Plus I've got additional damage from my medals. So when I run this character now, I'm not doing 30 million damage turn 1. As amazing and impressive as that was, I'm actually able to do something closer to 300 if I would get all of his tricks. So for this guy, I lay down what we call pyro gems, which adjust the nature of every gem up above it. And then I'm going to lay down these pyro gems in addition to that. Now, one set of pyro gems makes everything multiple eye gems. One set of pyro gems makes everything yellow, which is his primary color. And then I match up the gems right here to break these rows and watch the damage. Bam! Look at all that. That right there was 236 million when 60 is like top of the pile for this meta. So, you can have a lot of fun with your characters. You can do a lot of things with them, and you've got deep customization. So that's all scratching the surface. Well, really, it's the tip or the middle of the iceberg, right? There's so much more we could talk about. You know, your factions events, your rosters, your different things that happen in the store, the fact that there's a portal that you can get on every day online and get guaranteed bonuses all of the time. Plus, if you want to spend you can spend. But there's things like these prize walls where when you get a certain type of currency, you can actually choose. Like I had the choice between Logan Paul, Acolyte Farouk, Damian Priest, Judgment Day, or Io Sky. And I chose Io Sky because I didn't have her on my roster where I had the other three. So, there's a level of customization there. There are prize walls. So as you do well in certain events, you have the ability to go on to these prize walls and select what you want. So for example, right now, there's prize walls going on where I could get special wedding gear for Indy Hartwell. I could get silver gear or gold gear for Hall of Fame Snoop or Macho Man or Brutus Beefcake. Or I could get something like the Earthquakes gear from the Shark WCW days, or Baron Corbin when he was the big bad wolf, right? So there are just so many layers to this game that create a fun environment. Last thing I want to talk about with this game, though, is the community. I mentioned that there are factions, right? And so I've got 100 people in my faction right here, the faction I'm in. I'm not the leader of it. But in addition to that, there are thousands upon thousands of daily players in this game that interact together. We create content. In fact, I am an official Scopely content creator. Although, just because I'm endorsed by Scopely doesn't mean that I'm shilling for them. This legitimately is my favorite game. Not just on mobile, but on any console. And it's my favorite game of all time. The community is at times toxic. It happens, right? People get sideways. But for the most part, there are people in this game that are becoming lifelong friends because of the connections they make. It truly is a community effort where we work together, we play against each other, we play together, we try to figure out characters as they come out together. It is just an incredible experience all the way around. So this has been my exploration. I know I could have done better on it. I know I could have added music over the video and tried to be the cool kids to get this video to as many people as possible. But the reality is I've been wanting to make this video for over 2 years because, and that was, by the way, long before I was an official Scopely content creator for this game, because, this game has a special place in my heart. I started playing this game around the time my dad died, and it was a good escape for those reasons. And then the pandemics happened in 2020, 2021. This game and the community were my daily driver. I sat around when I had time, because I actually was super busy during the pandemic trying to make things work. In my free time, my reprieve was watching videos by Gerson and Goldie and Merrick's, other official content creators for the game. And then as Rusty and I, my co-host and I here on the podcast that became a YouTube channel, started making our own content, guys like Davey D and Professor and Iron Sheik 84 really reached out to us and helped us make this what it is. Other official content creators like DJ Anon ZT and Benny Smaja and Sir Zorro started speaking into what we do and saying, hey, if you guys would do this, it would improve your videos. You'd be able to do these things. And then, Scopely reached out to us out of nowhere, where we had gone from a little podcast that we started for our faction to a YouTube channel that barely had 300 or 400 people subscribed to it, to what we now have as this official content creator role. They took a chance on us. And so this game has meant a lot. I remember Halloween night trying to play after the kids went to bed from trick-or-treating in order to get zombie AJ Styles or zombie Shinsuke Nakamura. I remember literally, and this is a story I've told on our streams, so it's not weird or whatever, but sitting in the bathtub doing a grinding event to get Sting, the Icon version. There are so many things about this game that have meant so much over the past 6 years. It is a fun game with a depth to it that is just unparalleled for what I've seen for mobile games and even wrestling games. but an accessibility where you can just go in and smash gems, as we like to say. So, my pick, my dark horse option, as it were, for the best wrestling game of all time, it's not No Mercy. It's not SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, although I played the snot out of those games. My pick for the best wrestling game of all time on any platform, period, is WWE Champions for mobile. If you'd like to know more about this, if this intrigued you, if you're a 2K player who's looking for something that can be even deeper or even more casual and you'd like to know more, hit us up on our Discord. Check out our Twitch streams. Check out our YouTube videos. We've got a lot of them dedicated to this game. Because I'm not just saying this. When I say it's my favorite game of all time, I mean this is the game where I've had the most fun as a gamer of all time. Even beyond Final Fantasy VII. Even beyond Destiny. Even beyond Call of Duty. This is my game. And I'd love to show you or talk to you more about why it could be your game too. That's it for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends who are like, hey, you know, what's the best wrestling game of all time? Well, let me show you why this mobile game of all things is it. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.